Hello, BookTube. I once again had to be just a few blocks away from the Brattle Bookshop this morning. First thing, bitterly early this morning. So once again, I treated myself to go to the Brattle Bookshop, which is, for those of you who are new, I'm told that there are a whole bunch of new people on this channel. I have my 20-something weightlifters look at my analytics once in a while. I don't ever remember to look at my analytics. And they say, dude, you're getting new people. They don't quite say it that way. They say it as if it's the most mysterious thing in the world. And in this one instance, I agree with them. I do not understand why anybody watches this channel, except maybe my friend Sam, maybe my friend Deb, and if it were possible, every dog in the world. Now, those I would understand, but anyway. So I went to the Brattle. It's a used bookstore in the heart of downtown Boston, and it's not like a lot of other used bookstores. It's massively replenished. The Brattle van is always out buying everything under the sun. Everything isn't nailed down. They aren't just looking for collectible items. They'll buy boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of everything. And then they bring it back to the shop and sort it all out and price it, and there it goes. And that would make the shop a mecca anyway. But the shop also has outdoor sale carts, $1, $3, and $5 sale carts. And today was beautiful. It's projected, I think, to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit in Boston today, in the last week of February, when we should be dealing with blizzards. And instead, we should be dealing with blizzards, and we should have at least 5 feet of snow on the ground. Instead, today is projected to be 60 degrees. That's open window weather. So even when I was at the Brattle, it was already temperate. It was already perfect for browsing those outdoor carts, because the carts are out in all weather. Unless it rains or snows, the carts are out in all weather. And there have been times in the past, many, many times, where I have gone to those carts even when it was 0 degrees Fahrenheit, when it was bitterly, bitterly, bitterly cold. It's just a lot of fun. The serendipity is a lot of fun to just go hunting, never knowing what's out there, because the carts change all the time. And I went today and I found a bunch of stuff. I found a bunch of stuff. Now, some of these things I can't show you because they're for you. they're for you. I routinely shop for people that I've met through BookTube at the Brattle. I routinely do that. The more I know about what you're interested in, the more I know about what might interest you, the more I shop for you at the Brattle, which makes it a kind of a neat circle that a lot of you are generous enough to call in store credit at the Brattle. In fact, I'm running a little low on store credit at the Brattle. It's probably time for you all to gather together, draw straws, and the person who draws the short straw should probably call in some credit. But thanks to that, it's a complete circle. I have some books that I want to show you, and we'll start off with the inevitable, right? If you've been watching these Brattle Bookshop videos, then you know already it's inevitable. In 2020, I have had my love of murder mysteries has just rekindled. I have just been consuming murder mysteries and reading all about them, and embarking on a kind of informal plan to just canvas the genre, to go back to old favorites that I haven't read in forever, to go back to established names that I haven't read in forever or maybe have not read, and to try out new murder mysteries, to see what's new and new names, people, new settings, new time periods, and find out what I like and what I don't like. It's been great. It's been absolutely great. And the Brattle mystery section on the inside of the shop is pretty well stocked. And the outside carts can always be relied upon to have mysteries. Some mysteries. You never know what you're going to find. The carts are totally haphazard, and they aren't organized in any way except by price, so you have to go through them in order to see what's there. But I came away today with a bunch of mysteries. In fact, of the books that I can show you, half of them are mysteries. And the first one is going to need no introduction. It's this author's most famous and most loved work. This is Gaudy Night by Dorothy Sayers, which I got in there's a beautiful new, I think it's from Harper, beautiful new red designed mass market paperbacks of a whole bunch of classic murder mysteries. Death at La Fenice by Donna Leone. Gaudy Night is one of them, and I have that. But I like these Art Deco covers. These are by Marie Michal, Michal. And the whole, once upon a time, all of Dorothy Sayers was like this for years. And I had them all once upon a time. And I don't have this one. I don't have the whole collection of these. And I'll gladly take it. What I really want, ideally, is the Marie Michal covers on dust jackets for hardcovers of Dorothy Sayers. I know that they were all made. I've only come across a couple of them in the last 20 years, so I'll take this as a stopgap, especially since it didn't cost anything. And Dorothy, Gaudy Night is widely regarded as the greatest Lord Peter Wimsey mystery, so I grabbed it. Then this next one is a perfect example. This is a big name. I've only read a couple of these books. I'm not at all conversant with the author, and I want to be. I want to be. I am now conversant with the works and the predilections and the fandom and the publishing history of the big names in romance, going back all the way to the Victorian era. And I have for a very long time been very conversant in the big names and the genres and the threads and the drifts and the fads and the whatnots of science fiction and fantasy. But mystery, I think it's mystery's time. And this is Margaret Allingham. This is an absolutely hideous penguin cover. I don't even know what that is. Cargo of Eagles. This is a Campion mystery. And I don't know them well enough. I don't know them well enough at all. Let's see here. Campion takes sudden interest in oh, well, part of the cover is missing. So, I don't know the name of the town, but a remote and uncommonly tight-lipped Thames estuary village. The place has a long history of smuggling and holds a secret rich enough to make someone threaten, terrorize, murder, and raise the very devil to keep strangers away. Even Campion admits that it's a baffling case. So this was I think was a UK only Penguin mass market, and it will serve. It could be the risk I run with this haphazard approach is that I don't know if I'm hitting a notoriously bad book. I will just read very widely. I will read very widely to try and compensate for that. For all I know, this is a dud as a Campion novel. But I don't have any other Campion novels at the moment, so I will read this one. We'll see if there are bits in it that I like. Next Allingham novel, the next Campion novel that I see, I will grab. Then we have a mystery that I picked for its location. I don't know anything about the author. I don't know anything. I don't know if this is a book in a series or maybe it was one of a kind. I got it mainly just for its location. This is by Douglas Kiker, Kiker, and it's called Murder on Clam Pond. The Washington Post Book Review, the Washington Post Book World, which was once upon a time one of the greatest pull-out book sections anywhere in American newspaper publishing, has a very pro forma blurb. Great fun. No idea what that means. But this is set on Cape Cod. And the back description is, blame it all on Moo Moo. At least that's the way Mac McFarlane felt. He hated the feisty little poodle almost as much as he hated the wife he'd just left. But there he was, sharing a rented, run-down house with his dog in the middle of winter, in the middle of Cape Cod. No family, no job, just a burned-out, lonely reporter who used to be one of the best. Then Moo Moo found the body, lying in the snow near the back porch of the big house next door. It was Jane Drexel, very rich and very dead. Murdered, in fact, a detail McFarlane learned when he called the police. But when he became a stringer for the Boston paper and was assigned to the case, he learned more, a lot more. Like the secret relationship Mrs. Drexel had with her trustees. Who really controlled the town? How did Mrs. Drexel handle her millions? And last but not least, who killed her and why? So here we have its location. It'll be Cape Cod, and if this author has done any kind of work, then Cape Cod will be invoked, which is half the fun of reading about a murder mystery in a very prominent location like this. And it's also a bit of a personal redemption narrative, which I'm finding as I dig deeper into murder mysteries that I don't particularly like. Well, now we'll be talking about all of this, all of these permutations, 1,000 examples, in enormous detail in March, for March Mystery Madness, a booktube event that is 5 years old this year, where a whole bunch of great booktubers are going to be talking and celebrating murder mysteries all during the month of March. We'll be talking a lot about all kinds of murder mysteries in the month of March. But I'm finding right now, at least this early on in the game, it's still only February, despite the fact that it feels like April. This early on, it could easily change, but right now I'm finding that I prefer murder mysteries that concentrate on the murder instead of on the sleuth, which feels kind of strange, because I like everybody else, I learned to love murder mysteries through Sherlock Holmes. But I'll when March comes, we will have a long discussion on the subject. I wonder, is this author is he on island? Let's see. He's one of the nation's best known and most widely respected television news correspondents. As a reporter for the Atlanta Journal, he observed the turmoils of the Southern Civil Rights Movement. As White House correspondent for the New York Herald Tribune, he was present in Dallas when President Kennedy was killed. As an NBC News correspondent, he covered every national political convention since 1964. He reported for NBC News from Vietnam, Northern Ireland, and the Middle East, and on special assignment, the revolution in Iran. Good Lord. Sounds like I'd rather read his biography than his book. For his reports on the Jordan War in 1970, he was awarded broadcasting's most coveted prize, the George Foster Peabody Award. He's the author of 2 novels, The Southerner and Strangers on the Shore. Strangers on the Shore could be a murder mystery. It's got shore in it. It could be a Cape Cod murder mystery. Well, in one way or another. Well, this is the only thing I've ever heard of. Never. I'm sure I've read his work. Now that I read his biography, I'm sure I've read his work, but not his murder mysteries. Then the next one is a classic author of the Golden Age. And I love this run of this author's work, so I will probably get more of them. I have a ridiculous mental thing to overcome. I have to. This is Nagaya Marsh, and this is A Man Lay Dead, with these stylish black covers where some element of the cover is always in a blank silhouette. Let's see here. When Sir Hubert Hansley invited his well-to-do friends to his country estate for an amusing weekend, no one suspected it would turn into a deadly ordeal. But one of the participants in the supposedly playful murder game turns up dead, and Scotland Yard's inimitable Roderick Alleyne must find out who spoiled the fun. And this is Nagaya Marsh is an absolute institution. This was originally published in 1934, and this run, these Jove editions came out in the late 70s and early 80s, and they were the ones that I recognized from the bookstore. They all look like that. And once upon a time, a long time ago, I had a bookstore store manager when I was working in retail. When I was working in a bookstore, I had a store manager who showed up. We lost our old store manager. We got a new one, and this new one was a monster. Just a monster. And I mean that almost literally, almost like something out of Beowulf. Just a hateful, spiteful, vindictive android who worked 20-hour days, never ate, never drank, was always at the store, always second-guessed her managers, and tried to ruin the happiness of her non-managerial employees. It's not that she did it accidentally. It's not that, oh, well, you were happy before, but it was because the store was kind of lackadaisical, and now I'm making things a little stricter, and that will impinge on your happiness a little. No, she tried to ruin the happiness of everything that she saw. If she heard 2 people in the store, even customers, laughing, she would drift closer to them, not drawn by the warmth of the happiness, but wanting to eradicate it. Are these customers laughing for some reason that I can reprimand them for? Are these employees laughing just in general? I don't want employees laughing at all. It's unprofessional, etc., etc. And before we all knew what kind of a monster she was, before it became completely clear, I had some people that were working at the store who said, no, I have better instincts for this than you do. Believe me, this is not a human being. It just looks like one. And I was willing to give the benefit of the doubt to anybody, especially since I was largely beyond the reach of management. And I was wrong, dead wrong. The people whose instincts told them that were right. But before we got to that point, when this manager was still trying to like people, still trying to act like a normal human being, she wasn't a normal human being. Had no pulse, never ate food, was just the worst kind of android manager. But before that point, she mentioned that a long time ago she'd read Nagaya Marsh and really liked her and really wished that she had some of those novels. And me being me, the next time I was at the Brattle, I found a handful of Nagaya Marsh and I got them. They were $1 a piece. I think I had credit then, just like I do now, even though it was decades ago. And I gave them to her, and she was grateful, and she took, for all I know, she took them home and read them. I have no idea. I thought nothing of it at all. But once she imploded and became this kind of vengeful creature, this pathetic, vengeful creature, where your happiness, where a smoothly flowing, friendly store was something she wanted to crush, not just discourage, but crush. That left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. There wasn't a day when every single employee wasn't hoping and praying that this person would be gone, would be promoted out of the store, would be disciplined out of the store, would for maybe some Intel chip would burn out and she would just malfunction. And she eventually did leave the store. She eventually did leave. She had a small heart attack on the sales floor. in her, I think it was her 47th consecutive hour of work, and was carted out by EMTs, which was a huge shock to everybody in the store. Not the event itself, but that there was a heart. That was a big surprise to all of us. And it had by that point reached a point where even a kind-hearted 80-year-old employee at the store, when we were all once the shock went away and we were all talking about it, this kind, sweet old man said, "Well, with any luck, she won't pull through." This is a guy who's never said anything like that before. This is just a vindictive force of nature. And I found, irrationally, that for a long time after that, when I would see a Nagaya Marsh novel, I wouldn't get it. I had this distaste in my mouth because it was connected with that person. And that's not fair. That's not fair. And it's especially not going to hold up now that I'm in the midst of this mystery frenzy. So I grabbed this, and we'll see. I could easily see myself having all of Nagaya Marsh. And then the last mystery for today is a trade paperback. I've been staying away from those. I don't want to burden my shelves with these murder mysteries. I expect that this mania will go away. I expect that I will be out of this mania for murder mysteries probably for all of 2020, and I will amass a gigantic pile of murder mysteries here, and then I will winnow, and it'll be like a tide washing out again, and it will leave some stuff behind, but not all of it. So I'm trying not to get trade paperbacks or hardcovers if I can help it. I will, if that's what shows up and it's free, but this is an author I know I love, and I don't have anything by him. This is Michael Dibdin, who writes murder mysteries about Aurelio Zen, a police inspector in Venice. And this is Cabal. Isn't that a lovely thing? If I'm going to get a trade paperback, it'd be nice that it's lovely. And this one comes with a Venice bookmark. An unfortunate Venice bookmark, but nevertheless, it's a cat. See that? Cats are everywhere, or were when I was there in Venice. They were everywhere. Just everywhere. You couldn't go to a public fountain. You couldn't go to a public square without having to be everywhere. And yet, filthy pigeons were everywhere, too. It's the laziest cats in the world. But this is Aurelio Zen. The Aurelio Zen books are absolutely fantastic. I don't remember which one Cabal is. Let's see. For a time, the cadences of the Latin Mass hold the attention of the tourists and worshippers on a bleak November day in St. Peter's in the Vatican. But then an alarming noise diverts their attention, and the congregation is horrified as it witnesses a body falling from the dome of the basilica. Oh, that's right. I remember this one. That is wonderfully described. When the Vatican authorities call in Aurelio Zen to investigate, he agrees with their verdict. Ludovico Ruspani has committed suicide. But then an anonymous letter to the press suggests that Ruspanti was thrown from the gallery inside the dome, and that he was murdered by a centuries-old organization connected to the Knights of Malta. And you just know, I could be wrong, but you just know that the whole genesis of this book was Michael Dibdin in that church, looking up and thinking, what if a body fell out of that thing? And it all starts from there. You just know had that kind of a humble beginning. But then we'll move on from murder mysteries, and we'll do the rest of these. The next one being a gem. An old gem. This is 100 years old, and it's the kind of thing you can get on the sale carts at the Brattle unpredictably. The sale carts at the Brattle are not just the last 5 Danielle Steele novels. You can find something out there that a less experienced, less knowledgeable used bookstore, or maybe one that has all the experience and knowledge in the world but a lot less traffic, would have on a shelf behind the register for $30, $50, something like that. You can find things like that outside at the Brattle regularly. And this is one of them. This is from 1902, I think. When did this come out? 1892. This came out in 1892. This is Essays in Miniature by Agnes Repplier, who was, once upon a time, famous. I know that you won't believe that looking at this whole thing, but once upon a time, she was the most famous essayist in the country, in the United States. And she wrote all the time, and everybody wanted her ruminations on books, on literature, on people, children, music, cats. She wrote a whole book on cats. She also wrote a whole book on tea. She was a little bit of a crank, but she writes wonderfully, absolutely wonderfully. And that was noticed right away. That was noticed by one of the very first people to get a submission of hers was an editor at the Atlantic Monthly here in Boston, who noticed right away, ooh, our readers are going to like this. Who is this person? You go hurrying for the envelope, the contact information. Who is this person? Because you wouldn't believe back then, in the 1870s or 1850s or whatever, you wouldn't believe how many people sent submissions to the Atlantic Monthly forgetting to include their contact information, what we now call their contact information. They would assume that the envelope, the package in which they sent their material, was sufficient. That is not sufficient, and those of you who are making that mistake in the 21st century are making a very old and very dumb mistake. Don't do that. The 21st century version of thinking that the contact information on the mailing package in which you send your essay to the Atlantic Monthly will be sufficient to remember you to the editor who gets it 10 stages later when the packaging is long gone. The 21st century version of that is to send a document to an editor or a prospective editor or whatever attached to your email, but without your name on the document itself. Don't do that. An editor's going to go through his inbox, same way as the Atlantic Monthly 150 years ago. He's going to go through his inbox. He's going to look essentially at his mail. He's going to see something with an attachment. Okay? He's going to click on the attachment while he's still got your email up. He's going to start reading the attachment and say, just what this Atlantic Monthly editor said 150 years ago. He's going to say, our readers would like this. This is good. This isn't junk. You can tell. You get so that you can tell in a fraction of a second whether or not a submission is junk. Whether or not you can end up working with it, whether or not it's good enough, that's something you figure out down the line. But you know right away whether or not it's something that you want to keep, to look at, to pay attention to. And when the editor does that, when the editor makes that split-second decision and says, this is real. Okay, this isn't a crackpot. This is real. The editor in the 21st century copies that document onto his desktop, deletes your email, and moves on with his day. he does 150 things. She does 150 things. Just like that. All day long. And then at the end of the day, or maybe the end of the week, or maybe all of that stuff is just bundled up and forwarded to some assistant. That is when eyes first concernedly look at that thing. And if it doesn't have your name on it, what are the chances that it's ever going to be connected to you again? They're pretty poor. They're pretty poor. It might be possible to go to Gmail or whatever and type in the name of the subject of your piece and hope that it calls up by association, by algorithm, your name, but no editor's going to do that. They're not going to do that, not when they have 30 new submissions since you submitted yours. They're going to say, I don't remember where this came from. Too bad, it had promise, and they're going to move on. So don't make that mistake. Don't make the mistake. Don't make the mistake that Agnes Repplier made when she very first submitted to the Atlantic Monthly. Make yourself easy to find. Consider the poor overworked editor. Okay? I don't know where that rampage came from. But anyway, it did work. She was popular with the Atlantic Monthly and published there and a whole bunch of other places forever and ever. She was very popular in the Catholic press. She was an ardent Catholic. And this book, Essays in Miniature, is all about the very homeliest, most wonderful subject. Let me read you some of these. I wonder if this has a table of contents from 1892. Yes. Our Friends, the Books. Trials of a Publisher. The Oppression of Notes. Notes in a book. Conversation in novels. A Short Defense of Villains. A Byway in Fiction. Humors of Gastronomy, about which she would know bloody little. Children in Fiction. 3 Famous Old Maids. The Old World Pets. The Battle of the Baby. The Novel of Incident. All these little things, and they're going to be so much fun to read now. Not just for her rhetorical ability. She writes a very sweet, very clean, very, very enjoyable, smile-inducing essay. But also for all the stuff she's going to bring up, all the works, writers and books that she's going to bring up that don't exist anymore, or that are full of association for me, but are long out of print. It's going to be a delight to read this. This is the kind of thing you get at the Brattle that you're not likely to find anywhere else. This next one is for the Penguin Wall. And I'm doing a march of the penguins. I'm walking you through all of my Penguin Classics. And in addition, one thing that's doing is helping me to clean my Penguin Classic library. Pull out the doubles. Pull out the ridiculous extraneous stuff. Pull out the volumes that I don't want. Heresy of heresies. There's some Penguin volumes that I just don't want. I'm counting on that happening throughout the course of the year. I'm going to streamline my Penguins. The main goal is to talk about them with you, but the side effect is that I am cleaning my Penguin Classic collection. Another side effect is that I am increasing my willingness to re-tackle authors. And this is one of them. This is The Golden Bull by Henry James. This is the two Americans, a father and a daughter, who each marry, and they're marrying various kinds of swindlers, and it's all about corrupt, enfeebled, enervated, and disgusting old Europe meeting naive and robust, unsuspecting America, and it's the Golden Bowl has its big fans among Jamesians, among Henry James fanatics. I don't know how many Henry James fanatics there are in the world anymore, but in the 1950s, couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting one at a literary party. And the Golden Bowl is the most Jamesian of all the Jamesian novels. And this is long after he decided to just let his freak flag fly. This is long after that. This was long after he needed to kowtow to the whims of the marketplace, and it was also long after he was actually handwriting anything. This is all done with dictation, and if you know anything about Henry James and the way he talked, he could go on forever. So these later novels have a very different feel to them. They almost feel like they're written by a different writer than the earlier novels, which had to earn their keep and hustle and could not allow fat to grow around their midsection. This is very, very Jamesian. I don't know. Either that will not help me to like better this author, this great author who I just have never loved. Either reading this will help me to like him better, or it will just burn all the bridges behind it. I couldn't pass up a Penguin Classic, so I brought it back with me, but I don't know which direction it'll go in. This next one is by a figure that we've seen from the Brattle. This is Julian Simmons. I got his book on the bloody art of murder, a nonfiction work where he studies murder mysteries throughout the century. But this is a biography of his. This is a biography of Edgar Allan Poe. A slim little thing, the slimmest Edgar Allan Poe biography that I've ever seen. And I don't recall that I've ever read this. I've read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe biographies. I read Poe, the one that had just his name multiple times down the spine. I read Ken Silverman's great biography of Edgar Allan Poe, and a bunch of other things too, and a lot of fiction as well. But I don't think I've ever read this one. So I mean, for free, for it was $1, but I was using credit, so it didn't cost anything. And biography is my favorite kind of thing to read. So, and then the last one is an oddity. The last one is a distinct oddity. This is the Liberty Fund, which the more you dig into them, the skeevier they seem. But they also have a publishing arm. The Liberty Fund has a publishing arm. And it, well, for a while, was very ambitious. I don't know if it's still going on, but for a while, they were doing things that you couldn't get anywhere else in scholarly editions. So there were many times where I've had many Liberty Fund volumes. And I don't have them anymore, but I found one today that I just couldn't pass up, especially since, again, it was free. This is Adam Smith, the great author of The Wealth of Nations. And he wrote periodical, as everybody did, no matter how big a name there is, whether you're Hume or Adam Smith or not. Everybody wrote for the periodicals. Everybody wrote book reviews. Everybody descended to my line of work. It has left almost nobody alone. Almost everybody has done it at one point or another. Because if you're in a position for an editor to want your work, it's fairly easy money. You're going to be reading the books anyway. Adam Smith did some of that, and he also gave lectures. And his lectures were magnificent. They were on literary or rhetorical subjects a lot of times, and they were magnificent. They were, from what we gather from first-hand impressions, largely done without any kind of notes or book or anything. They were just these freewheeling exercises of a massive erudition. And there were notes to some of them. There were written versions to some of them, and Adam Smith insisted, as all ponces do at the end of his life, that all of that be burned. He made David Hume swear that he would burn all of that stuff. Made his executors swear that they would burn it. And unfortunately, these people did a lot of that burning. Unbelievable. Nobody should ever do that. Say whatever you want to the poor wretch on the deathbed, but don't do it. And everybody knows how that works out. All of Adam Smith's executors, David Hume, all these people know how it works out. Posterity hates the people that do the burning. Anyway, a lot of it was burned. A lot of that stuff was burned, but things like that have a way of surviving. Many attestations, many alternate scraps here and there. And Liberty Fund put together the lectures in rhetoric and belles lettres of Adam Smith into one green volume. And there's a long introductory essay describing the unbelievable complexities of provenance involved here. And then we get a bit of the lectures. The lectures, if I remember correctly, are in very general. They're in very on very general headings, probably because they don't reflect the finished copy of the writer. The manuscript, the lectures, or no, lectures on rhetoric and belles lettres, considerations concerning the first formation of languages, anecdotes about the late Dr. Smith. So this is, this comes probably as close as we can get to manuscripts of a lot of those things, but I mainly got it because this is just a gigantic brick of scholarship, of Adam Smith scholarship, that it's going to be fascinating to read anyway, on, even the search for how to find these things and how to reconstitute them. So I grabbed it, absolutely. Don't think there's any, I think this is just one. I don't think there's any other volume here. A lot of Liberty Fund volumes go on to multiple volumes, but I don't think this is one of them. And it's nice too. It's very stiff binding. It has an inlaid flower there. So that was my Brattle day. We have some nonfiction of Adam Smith. Something that's not The Wealth of Nations. Well, I strongly advise you all to read The Wealth of Nations. And then we have a slim biography of Edgar Allan Poe that I don't think I've ever read. We have a decidedly not slim late volume of Henry James, The Golden Bowl. We shall see. Pray for Mojo. We have Essays in Miniature by Agnes Repsayer, a once famous figure that now you would only see her fetch up at a place like the Brattle, unfortunately. Then Cabal by Michael Dibdin. And a bunch of murder mysteries. We have A Man Lay Dead by Nagaya Marsh, the legendary Nagaya Marsh. We have Murder on Clam Pond by Douglas Kiker, who, we read his biography together, it turns out that he was a massively prolific reporter, who maybe turned to murder mysteries late in his career. Maybe he settled down to write murder mysteries on Cape Cod. I'll find out. I'll read all about him. Then Cargo of Eagles by Margaret Allingham. Those of you who are Campion fans, do you know this book? Did I pick a good one? I can't tell you. I've read, I think, 2 Campion novels. Neither one was this one, but I couldn't tell you what they are, which ones they were. So I'm a neophyte when it comes to it. Is this one of your favorites? And lastly, of course, one that I don't need any help with. I already know this is great. This is Gaudy Night by Dorothy Sayers, Lord Peter Wimsey and Harriet Vane at their best. So there you go. That was a Brattle trip, lacking only the volumes that I can't show you, because I know the recipients are watching and I don't want to spoil things. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.